Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your weekly look into the realities of being a designer. This week I'm joined by fellow Brit and lettering expert Ian Barnard, our American retro design lover Dustin Lee, and everyone's favourite illustrator Lisa Glanz. In this week's episode, we talk all about the role of formal education for designers. Is it better to be self-taught or to attend a design college? What do employers really look for when hiring designers? And ultimately, does an education in design make you a better designer? All this and more in today's episode, so let's get into it. We're talking about self-taught versus design kind of formal education, and Lisa, I know you've done a course in this, and I kind of selfishly actually want to know what's in these courses because I've never done one. I'm absolutely self-taught, terrible trial and error. Like, is it all theory? Like,
there is quite a bit of theory. Well, the course or diploma, whatever you want to call it, that I did was they took us through all the different kind of careers you can do as a graphic designer, whether it's in the advertising world to magazines to marketing. Okay. Yeah.
So it's like how to get into those paths as opposed to how to design or
no, they would actually take you through projects that you would be sort of confronted with. So we did the advertising thing, we did the whole like the storyboard thing. Drawing up your storyboard, putting that together. So that was quite formalized. And then from a magazine point of view, like what a good page layout is, what you would actually do to put it together, that kind of stuff. I'm sure it's changed these days. Look, I don't know. I don't know what they do these days. But that's what I did. As I said,
why do you feel that didn't help you that much?
Well, it helped me in terms of the theory of understanding. So when I went for job interviews, I wasn't completely lost. I did have some idea of what they were talking about, but when it came to the actual real world work, I knew nothing. When I actually got down to doing the job, I had to basically learn everything from scratch. So as I said, it's like kind of depends on your personality, because there were some amazingly creative people that were with me in class, and they just bummed out completely because they didn't like the structure. They didn't like the whole here's your project, you got to have it in time, this is your assignment. So the whole learning kind of approach for them in a creative way didn't work. So I think if you're that kind of person, then I wouldn't do the whole formalized training. I think it's terrible then. But if you like a little bit of structure and guidance and somebody giving you a little bit of insight that you feel a bit of you feel overwhelmed in a particular industry that you want more information on, then yeah, definitely. Especially if you want to say work in an advertising agency. I don't know how strict they are these days in terms of job interviews. I don't know if they want criteria fulfilled, but I don't think it's a necessity.
No, I don't think so. I mean, we have a team at Design Cuts, and more so we've got Matt, our creative director, and he runs a creative agency. Yeah. And they do like a lot of high-end stuff, a lot of like really big brand stuff. And I don't think once he's looked at a CV and kind of looked for a course or a degree or something in design ever. Like, it's always done by the portfolio.
Oh, right.
Because it really doesn't matter. I mean, right? Like it really doesn't matter whether you finished your degree or not, because if the stuff looks like crap, who cares? I think I got a business degree, but then I went back because I felt this like real, I don't know if you guys felt this. I'd be curious to know if any of you, or maybe like you, Tom, felt this, or Ian. I felt like this strong feeling like I wasn't really a designer. I was just a big poser unless I had a degree and went to school. Right. So like I bought a bunch of books, and then I went to school and like quit my job and went to school and studied it for like a year and a half. And I got over that, and then I look back and I'm like, that was all just like really in a lot of ways a waste of time, because I don't feel like I like learned a ton that I couldn't have learned better in books. And really how things look, you know, and how well your work is better. What I do think was great about it though was that it made me do things that it's good for things that you never would do that you should do. So like a good example would be like cutting things out with an X-Acto knife, or creating an actual book and binding a book together, and then like having to cut things with an X-Acto knife and put it together, or having to do mixing colors with actual real colors and paint and mixing them to see what happens when you combine colors. I would never sit around and do that. That's like super boring to me. But like in class, we're like, better show up, better have your paints, better be ready to
that's a good
stir
point.
some colors.
Yeah.
So it forces you to do things that you otherwise might not do. I guess that's the main benefit I got from it.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
I did a graphic design and illustration course, which
is this like an educational course or like an online course?
No, this was when I left, because I left sort of mainstream school at 16 and did 2 years doing a multimedia course. So I covered video, light and sound, radio, photography, graphic design.
That's cool.
Like a whole range of stuff, technical drawing, and it was just like, you know, one lesson every week of all the different aspects. And I felt that graphic design was my strongest subject, and so I then went off and did 2 years of graphic design and illustration. But it was looking at a lot of the sort of ideas behind, you know, working away from the computer, and getting the ideas first. I don't think it was particularly, I didn't find it particularly helpful because like the day, I learned more from my friend who the day before I got my first job in a design agency taught me how to use Illustrator. And I didn't know how to use that before that day. So like the day before he went through the basics, and then like started to blag the fact that I could use Illustrator and I could do all these things. So I feel that, yeah, like Dustin said, it's about, because like with creativeness, you could have done, you know, all types of courses, but you haven't got, I suppose, you haven't got that, I suppose, creative edge. It's hard to, you know, to make anything, I suppose, if you, it's hard, isn't it? Because it's like, yeah, you could do all these things, but you might not come up with a piece of artwork that looks any good, sort of thing, you know, whether it's...
Yeah, I think for me, that there's no substitute for experience.
Yeah.
And
True.
so maybe the right choice is whatever's going to give you more experience. If you think without a formal education, you might not pursue it, or you'll sit at home and do nothing, fair enough, because like Dustin says, maybe they guide you then to go and try new stuff and learn the ropes. But if you feel like that's stifling you and you're going to go and be prolific all on your own and start messing around and getting client projects and doing personal projects for fun all the time, then, you know, maybe it isn't the right fit. So I guess it's probably subjective for everyone. I'm kind of interested to hear about it from your guys' perspective, because it's literally the unknown to me. So I'm always curious, like, did I miss out? Because I did a degree for the sake of it, really. I kind of wish I'd done like my true passion, which is design. Like that would have been fun, like 4 years of just creating stuff. I feel like probably it would have helped me.
There's a couple of people I actually follow on Instagram.
Yeah.
There's James Lewis and Stu Babari, and they're both at university. And I didn't realise, I thought they were doing lettering full time, and they're both at university. Stu's got a YouTube channel with 80,000 or nearly 90,000 subscribers. Wow. And he's still at university. And so, and he's got a massive portfolio of work. Same with James Lewis. And so they're doing both at the same time. They're building that portfolio. So, you know, I don't think they, you know, when they come out of university, I think it's going to be more of all the work they've done
on the side
for themselves.
That's going to stand them in better stead.
Is going to be the thing that gets them work and stuff like that, rather than saying, oh, I've got a university course in whatever they're doing. And so I think it's you know, when the shows my age, where I was like, when I came out of university, the internet was very much in its childlike state. And so I think at the moment, you know, you can do both. You could do a university course while building up your portfolio and experience. You could do a part-time one, and part-time try and get a job for in the design industry. And so I think there's much more opportunity with how the internet is and building up an audience. And you know, I think that's what you need to do, because you can't, if you came straight out and you just go, oh, I've got a good degree, give me a job.
So what? Yeah.
And they go, oh, we want to see some experience.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's, oh, I want to see some like samples of your work. You're like, oh, it's just some of this project I did from, you know, the college, at the university. Whereas if you came out and you said, well, you know, I've just done this, you know, because it shows commitment if you can do a 2-3 year course. But if you can also show 2 to 3 years of, you know, this is personal projects that I've decided to do myself.
Yeah.
That would be, yeah, we'll bring you on. We love what you've done. Self-initiated work is a really good draw to someone.
We actually had that when we hired Lizzie on our team, who you guys have all emailed with. She bought like a bag of tricks to the interview. So in the interview, she starts getting out like these sculptures that she's done and like custom business card designs and brochures of her work and all this really cool stuff. And so interviews, I guess, could be quite intimidating for some people, but it's not like we're sat there like barking questions at her. Suddenly, Matt, Lizzie, and myself are sat around a table being like, ooh, this is really cool, and like kind of sifting through all this work and like getting really, really into it because it was great work. Like, so that counts for so much. Like, we would never have that reaction to, oh, wow, look, she's got a degree. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Every other person.
I think you know, there's a lot of jobs where degree is important, or is like you can't get, you know, like an architect has to go, you know, a doctor, and you know, all these professions where a degree is something that's needed. I feel that in the design illustration-y environment, or you know, career thing, I don't think it's a and it's also with like film and photography and stuff like that. I think when it's something that is not governed by whether you've got a degree or not, I think sometimes you have to weigh up whether that's the right thing to do, really, and whether it's going to, you know, because I think, you know, if it's all about experience, and as soon as you can get experience, as soon as you can get out there where you're doing jobs for people, whether you're even if you had 2 years working as like the equivalent of the T-boy in a design agency, that's 2 years that you can then take to another job, saying, I've had 2 years here, you know, doing all these jobs. So it's very much what you want to specialise in, whether what you want to actually do, and whether that degree is going to give you anything.
And really, like, design is like one of those things where, you know, if you're working like a doctor or something like that, you need people to vouch for you. Not to mention, you're not going to get access to cadavers or like bodies to like operate on or do whatever on, unless like you're in a medical degree, right? When you're doing like design,
you would hope not.
You would hope not, right? And even if you did, they wouldn't count it towards giving you a medical license. But like in design, like whether you go to a class or whether you stay at home, at the end of the day, like, you have to draw and use the software and try things and look at things. And if you're going to school, really all I feel like they're really doing is they're just holding your feet to the fire because you don't have the discipline to do it yourself. Because in this day and age, I mean, you can sign up, you can get, you know, essentially a master's degree in design by signing up for, you know, a variety of courses from different places, or there's free courses online. And if you can actually discipline yourself and just do what you need to do, I feel like you can learn just as much. I mean, and you can get the feedback. So if you're getting the feedback and all the information and the networking, what are they providing other than forcing you to do something? I mean, really all they're doing is holding you accountable. So if you need that, go for it. But I think the best point, not the best point, but the most truest point to me is when you hire someone, if you own a design thing, or if I've hired designers or Tom's hired designers, do you ever care where they went to school? I don't care at all. I don't even ask. I just want to see, does the stuff you do look cool?
Yeah.
Have you done stuff that's neat? Have you done stuff on your own? I could care less if you know, went to Stanford for it or you did it in your mom's basement. Who cares?
Yeah, I agree with
absolutely.
that kind of to a point, because when I was art director and I was hiring designers, although where they went to study wasn't important, there was still a couple of things that were important to me in terms of them fulfilling their job. So if they were going to be a pain in my ass and not know the kind of like technical abilities, that people who've been trained, and I'm going to have to train them, then it's going to be a long haul with them. But if they actually are just brilliant at what they do and like really talented, then I'd be willing to put in the graft with them. But if they were literally, not that, they were kind of running the mill, they didn't have the technical background, because a lot of people who are self-taught lack that often. Then for me as a busy designer or busy, art director, I'm not going to choose them. So it's kind of like an in between. I don't know.
Well, it's weird because like the irony is that like I've seen a lot of people that go to school and then like they don't know the most simple thing about using Photoshop or Illustrator, and they got a 4-year degree in
That's true.
design.
That is true.
But I've also seen people that like have gone to school and know way more than I do about how to actually prep, a 4-color file for print.
Yeah.
And if you're going to make 50,000 copies of something for a client, you want to know how to prep that properly instead of, blowing $20,000 of your client's money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it goes both ways.
But could you learn that through like an internship or something maybe? And
Yeah, it's
for sure.
possible.
I think kind of one of the takeaways for me so far is you don't have to have an education. It's not a bad thing if you don't, but it is a bad thing if you don't have the experience as well.
Yeah.
So if all you have is an education, that's not enough.
No.
If you have a ton of, great work and experience, then it really doesn't matter if you have the education or not.
True.
But I think one thing we haven't touched on is the cost, because it's pretty expensive over here. I'm not sure about South Africa. I know
It's
America,
pretty expensive.
you have to like remortgage 8 generations of
It is.
families' houses to pay for it.
Oh yeah.
It is.
It could easily be $50,000 to $100,000.
Yeah.
Which is a huge amount of money. And, a lot of designers, if they're a freelancer or something like that, they are also a business person in that sense. So you have to think, is that a good business decision to go $100,000 in debt before you even hit the ground running?
Well, yeah, and then the other question is like, if you think to yourself, let's just be really conservative and say that it costs $30,000 to get a design degree. Could you spend that $30,000 in other ways than at a school to learn the skills you want? Like, think about how many courses you could buy. Think about how much time with someone you could buy. Think about how much you could print your own things and make your own neat stuff and come out with a whole amazing collection of things you've made and people you've worked with and projects you've done with that money. I mean, $30,000
It's a lot of money.
is a lot of posters printed.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think what we kind of saying is like it depends on the person, because if you are proactive in your future, if you're making the effort, you're putting in the effort, you're doing those side jobs, as Ian's saying, and you what you just mentioned now, Dustin, if you're putting in all that graft, then the diploma or the degree doesn't matter. But if you're not the kind of person that's going to do that, I reckon maybe it's a good idea to follow the formal route, because then you held accountable, you'll have a degree, but then you also have to do the experience. So I guess I go back to my original statement. It depends on the personality.
It depends what you want as well, I suppose, because like if you think I just want to do graphic design, it's quite a broad thing, then you take that because it will be a broad course maybe. But if you want to sort of suppose niche in certain areas, then is it worth doing a course that's going to show loads of different bits in it? So like you say, it depends on your personality, depends on what you actually want to do, because 2 years spent doing a broad range of things not going to very much specialize you. But if you think, I want to do this one thing, then 2 years of practicing that one thing will make you really good. So it's
I think one of the biggest things that I look back on about the whole thing is I felt for so long, if I didn't do it, I wasn't really a graphic designer. I really literally felt like I was a poser if I didn't have that degree on my wall. And I would say to anyone that doesn't have it, if the reason you're going to do it is because you feel like you don't deserve to be or call yourself a graphic designer if you don't have your $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 degree on your wall. That's the complete wrong reason to do it. The reason to do it is because you want the interactions in real life with people, or because that just feels like the right choice to you. But don't do it because you want to put a degree on your wall, because you'll end up disappointed and in debt.
Yeah, completely.
You hear what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying?
Yeah, laying it down. Preach. No, I think that's pretty spot on. It's I mean, the self-taught thing, it sounds like you've all had some kind of background more than me, and I do feel like there's definitely shortcomings to being self-taught. Like I don't actually know about his background, but Chris Spooner, for example, he did some tutorials for us, and I literally was like learning so many Photoshop techniques and shortcuts that really should be part of my workflow. But I think when you're self-taught, at least I have a tendency to fall into a comfort zone.
Yeah,
So
you just do the same thing.
I'll do things in a bit of a janky way, and I'll hack around and make it work for me. And then I will do that for years. I'll never be methodical about always improving and finding smarter and better ways to work. I'll just kind of fall into my pattern. So you don't necessarily need a formal education to break that, but I definitely would advocate like these online courses and stuff like that.
Yep.
And just periodically, even if it's like a once a year refresh of your skills, just trying to kind of constantly improve and better yourself, because I've been so guilty of just doing the same hacky little workarounds, and it's really stupid. I could probably work literally 2 to 3 times quicker if I bother to actually learn it the right way.
Yeah.
So I can make stuff look nice, but it is not a smart way of working. And I think I know this applies to anything. It's like my brother works in video production and TV, and the people who've been doing it for years and have like the real formal background in it, they do it like 100 times quicker than a self-taught amateur. Like, and they have designers there as well, and literally they're like barely using their mouse. They're speed typing short codes, and all this stuff is like constantly moving on the screen, and it's nothing like how I design, where I'm very slowly kind of just clicking my way around, even though I know Photoshop supposedly inside out. Like, it's just, I basically, even though I'm self-taught, I would not advocate that for anyone. I think you probably do need some kind of like formal training, because otherwise you're not going to figure it all out by yourself.
Yeah, I think what you've just kind of triggered me to mention is the fact that it actually teaches you good workflow. That's what I would say is my biggest thing I took away from it. It kind of teaches you your process, what you should, especially when you're doing print work, and not wanting to make too many mistakes, because the bill is not a pleasant one. So so from that point of view, I think that's pretty good, because you kind of they give you this really good structure of what to check first, next, third, so on and so on, before you send anything to print. So that's pretty good. But you can actually learn that if you put in effort and go to a printer, or go to I don't think they have repro houses anymore. But yeah, I mean, there are ways of finding out the information for sure. But the formalized training,
you have to get out and look for it.
Yeah, exactly. And also I think
something. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say something. It depends on again. I think Ian, you might have said something along these lines. Depends on what you're going to do. Like if there was a stage I went in quite hectically into botanical painting. And I kind of fumbled around on my own, and I decided, no, I've got to put in the the commitment and put in a bit of money to do the course. And wow, what a difference. It really paid off. I mean, I would never have found out that stuff on my own. So yeah, it depends on what you want to do, I think.
I was going to say, this just like triggered me to think about, I originally wanted to be a musician. Thought I might be a really big rock star. That obviously didn't work out. Hit some roadblocks, like it's really hard to do.
There's always time.
But I had went to an art school, and my emphasis was on music, and I learned music theory. I learned how to read music. I learned jazz. I learned so cool. Voice leading, harmonies, and then I went to school to prepare to go to Berklee College of Music. Did all this stuff, and I learned so much about music, and I became very, very I think I knew more than most musicians that played guitar. And what I found was like at the end of it, I felt like I needed to do that. Like I needed to know how to do that. And then I like realized that I had almost boxed myself in with all that information. And I would look at people that had just loved playing and they just like had gotten like a cheap, you know, audio cassette 4-track and started playing guitar and making music, not knowing exactly how things worked. And it had so much more life in it because they weren't being so boxed in, or they weren't
in their head.
Feeling like, oh, well, yeah, like they weren't like thinking, oh, well, like the, you know, the ratio when you're like, you know, tracking words or your kerning needs to be this. And because of that, everything ends up like going through these multiple filters you have. So I think there's something to be said about like not letting it overcome you so much that it dictates your decisions and you can't stop yourself from doing that, if that makes sense.
I think the way I look at it is Picasso, where I remember learning about it as... Yeah, I remember learning about him at school, how apparently people were saying to him, oh, well, you're doing this really abstract style, like, I bet you can't even paint, or something like that. And then he went and did this incredible, like, superbly realistic painting, just to be like, there you go, I can do it.
Yeah.
And it's that classic thing about, like, learn the rules so you can break them. So I actually think, like, I would kind of disagree a little bit, Dustin. I think you probably do need all the stuff that you learned, like with the music. But then you also need the creative flair, and you need to push beyond that. Because if you just live within the boring theory, you know, that's something anyone could learn. That's not going to make you unique. So Picasso, if he just started trying to do this abstract work from nothing, it wouldn't be very good. But the fact he learned all the theory, grounded all of his expertise first, and then went and became more explorative, I think that's why that worked, and that's kind of how I think of design.
Yeah, it's kind of like
maybe like a good. Here's a good meet.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, go for it, Dustin.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say real quick. Here's like a good meet in the middle for you Brits. So you got the Beatles, right? You have Paul McCartney, who knew how to read music, played multiple instruments, understood how to create harmonies, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And you had John Lennon, who didn't know what he was doing and just hit on instruments. Both of them were brilliant. Both of them did awesome stuff. One guy was completely self-taught. One guy spent a lot of time perfecting the craft, and they both made great stuff. So I suppose it's to each their own, right? Like people make it work either way.
Yeah, for sure. Like what we can't do is prescribe the right path on this podcast. No. But I mean, already I'm kind of like listening to you guys and thinking, you know what, that course I've been meaning to do for a while, I might just suck it up and set my ego to one side and just do it, because I actually do want to continue to get better.
Yeah. I must say, I actually do quite a few courses a month, actually, but quick ones like on Skillshare, on Craftsy, all those kind of places. I think it's even if you think you're an expert, you will always learn something new, especially how somebody else works, or they found a better way or a faster way.
See, I guarantee that might surprise a lot of the listeners to know that you're regularly doing courses.
Really?
Like, for all the people who look up to you and your work, you are probably doing more courses than they are. So not only are you kind of where they want to be, but you're probably moving away from them faster because you're progressing quicker because you're investing in doing those courses. Whereas I'd imagine people's perception, they might just assume, well, you're great at what you do, and that's just a given.
Wow, no, that's because you were discussing about being self-taught. My illustration stuff is totally self-taught. I've never had formal training in that. So that's the point I was going to make. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place now. That's the point I was going to make about you kind of have to train your head first so that your heart can soar. So if you can allow your heart to really sing, I think your head needs to know how to allow that to happen, if that makes any sense at all.
It does make sense, and I want to see Dustin turn that into a song lyric.
I think it's already a song lyric. It sounds beautiful. I think it's true too.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with both of them having their place. I don't think there's one's right and the other one's wrong.
You need to embrace your inner McCartney and Lennon.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's good. Yeah, exactly.
Ian, I hope you're going to hand letter all of these from the episode.
Of course.
Get some custom posters done or something.
Yep. To back up Lisa's point, I also have a Skillshare subscription. because I find that there's always stuff on there that I can be learning, or whether it's even just looking at other lettering artists, because there's always something that they're doing, their method, thinking, oh, hang on a minute, I've never thought of it like that, or I've never done anything like that.
Exactly.
That will speed up my process. That will help with idea generation, stuff like that. So, never be, always be humble and know that you, like I say, can learn from someone else. Wherever they are, wherever you are in the stage, there's always something you can learn from someone else. And I think that's what's good about having a range of people to learn from, is that everyone has different knowledge of different programs, of different skills and stuff like that. So you can always, and the thing is, most of the time that's helped me is the small, little, tiny things, not the massive.
True, that's so true.
Things. It's little, might be something little in Photoshop that has like suddenly revolutionised the way I work.
Yeah.
I know that some of my products I made that came from just finding out about a certain thing in Photoshop, and that underlined loads of my products. So, it's and it could be just tutorials online as well. It doesn't have to be something where you have to pay for. It could be free YouTube tutorials or written tutorials. There is there's a ton of stuff out there, and So.
And we're so lucky, really, because pre where we are now, our parents never would have had access to this. Like we can learn anything. So I think anyone who's kind of complaining about not getting the theory behind it or not progressing, like there's not really any excuse, because money's not an excuse.
No.
And availability isn't an excuse.
Just an internet connection is all you need, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
It is, and it's so funny because sometimes people that I really look up to, they'll be like, oh, I work in Adobe CS2, never moved forward from that. And they're like making this groundbreaking, amazing work, like seriously, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I'll be like, what do you use? Or they'll tell you, and they're like, never upgraded from CS2 or something crazy like that. And you're like, wow, like it really doesn't matter. Like people make great stuff with whatever they have.
Although don't talk to me about CC at the minute. I upgraded and now I can't use fonts in Photoshop.
Oh wow!
And
that's what I haven't.
It's been a week and a half of that, and I feel like someone's chopped my arm off. It's so frustrating.
Go back. Go one back.
Good old Adobe.
Yeah, so that's the Honest Designer's endorsement of the latest CC update.
Yeah. The next one won't be sponsored by Adobe then.
But it might be by Skillshare.
Yeah, true.
That could be a whole episode.
Yeah, seriously. I love working in Photoshop, but the frustration at the minute. But anyway, to circle back around, I think that there's a few ideas, like really just get out there and learn and be a bit of a sponge, and don't live in this bubble of trying to figure it all out for yourself, and whatever path feels right in how you do that, just go for it.
Yeah.
And follow the stuff you're like interested in and passionate about. Like, don't make yourself miserable.
Oh, well said. I think
Good advice for anything.
Yeah, I think it's true. I think a lot of people feel obliged, like I've got to finish that. That's why, and if I don't finish that, I'm not a proper designer. That's not the case. I think you can get it all done without doing everything.
And ask people that have been there and done that before.
Oh, that's
I suppose like us.
Yeah.
But
yes.
People designers that you look up to, I know there's some that probably are too high up and too busy with all the stuff they're doing, but a lot of designers are, just if you just have like a question like Twitter or something, you can just tweet them and say, what do you recommend in terms of learning this? And they might be able to give you some guidance or stuff to avoid. So.
And actually, just that whole thing of like two heads are better than one. When you're, getting feedback on your work or whatever, we do it with products at the minute at Design Cuts, where it used to just be me kind of reviewing it, and now we have like 3 or 4 people in a room, and everyone comes up with some different feedback about it. And so you end up seeing all these different things you wouldn't have realized, or if people agree with you, it makes you even more confident in your opinions. So you're like, oh, okay, that kind of validates what I was thinking with that one. And the same goes for your work. Like, the reason we did these calls originally was to help each other out and kind of just get that like group brainstorm thing. Because if we never did this and never talked to another living soul, there's only so far that you're really going to go.
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's why we're here, isn't it? Is to connect. I mean, that's why we're alive as human beings. So that's the whole point.
Amen.
Amen, sister.
I like that.
Cool. So I guess on that note, that's right on the nose. And hopefully kind of helped a few people listening rather than leaving them baffled at the ups and downs of education. Hopefully there's a few pointers to take away in that one.
Yeah.
And to everyone who tuned in, as always, we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.
Cheers. Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in with us this week. We really hope this conversation shed some light on the role education can play for you as a designer. As always, you can find this episode and any show notes over at honestdesigners.com or search iTunes for The Honest Designers Show. I also wanted to pass on a huge thank you from the four of us, as the support for this show has been incredible. There are too many amazing reviews on iTunes to share them all, but I wanted to share this one from listener Kyle. Kyle says, "If you're looking for a true-to-life, transparent designer resource, The Honest Designers Show is chock full of can't-miss type of value. With authentic conversations about the everyday challenges we face as creatives, Tom and the team aren't afraid to tackle practical topics most design podcasts don't cover. I've already been inspired and empowered after just the first couple of episodes." Thank you so much, Kyle, and thank you to everyone for all of your comments. It's seriously humbling, and we read every single one of them. If you have a moment, your honest rating and review would mean the world to us, and you can pop over to iTunes to leave any comments. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.